Hey guys, what's up? Hitchlaw coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides Witchlaw, and I must say, today has gone pretty well. Not much can be complained, and there isn't too much else to really say or get into, so let's just shut her down. No, I know. You know, I was thinking today about my lock and key analogy for my thing. My thing that I come up with, that thing about environment and genetics. Our genetics being the lock and environment being the key. And how, you can have a great lock but a bad key, and that will lead to a bad outcome. Or you can have. Whoa. Sorry, I just got thrown off because this guy, he was speeding way too fast and he was coming up on a red light anyway. So I got put into like a dicey situation. I don't understand. Like that was just stressful for no reason. Cause like I look left and right, and then next thing I know, like the car was like gunning at me. You know what I'm saying? Like definitely going way over the speed limit. So I hesitated because like that was crazy. And then it just, and again, the light was red. Like he wasn't even going to make it anyway. Fortunately, the people around me were kind of smart, but it's like I don't know, it's just people speeding for no reason. But what else is new? Sorry, that stuff really upsets me. It just really, really upsets me. Like I don't know. Well, yeah, it looks like we're gonna be pretty stuck anyways. It's always like this. Um, I don't know. Just always seems to be like this, where it's just like it's a little bit crazy. It's just a little bit crazy. All right, sorry. Yeah, that just a bunch of stuff really threw me off. I really have to get here because not only did I not get here in the morning, I was 5 minutes off in the morning, but then I got stopped there for a while, and that whole craziness happened with the. Yeah, I can't believe that guy speeding through there. It totally threw me off because now I have to think like maybe I shouldn't go because like he's really coming fast, and it was like way too fast. Like I looked both ways and I obviously saw his car in the distance, but if a car was going the speed limit, my calculation was like totally fine. You know what I mean? Like I was 100% in the clear, but because he's going like at least 10 miles per hour above the speed limit, he really came up on me fast. So it just makes you like, yeah, I don't know. What a place the world would be, right? What a place the world would be if people just drove properly. I'm trying to think. Yeah, the locks and the keys. So I don't. There's probably a better way to explain it. I think my first idea was the canvas idea, where it's like, genetics is like. No, but I don't think the canvas makes as much sense. I don't even know if the locks thing makes as much sense either. It's not like a perfect analogy, but you know, I think it makes enough sense. I'm pretty proud of it, but I don't know, in a couple years maybe I'll concoct something a little bit better. The painting analogy was that like genetics are like the quality of the paint and the quality of the canvas, and then your environment is like the actual um the hand of the artist basically. I think that could potentially be better. I just like the lock and the key one more. How it's like you got a bad lock, even if you put a really good key in there, it's not gonna unlock. And then if you have a bad key, even if you have a really good lock, it's not it's also not gonna open, even if it's supposed to. So there's a ton of stuff like that. I actually wonder if today in particular going this way is slower. It just might be. Like I might be better off going a different way home on these days. I should experiment with that next week, because next week there's going to be a ton of early days that I have to do. So I think we'll see how that goes. Guy behind me is being a little bit crazy. He's really going crazy in his Toyota Camry, of course, honking at me a million times. It's just like I don't. And let's see how far we get up. Would you look at that? We're stopped anyway. Got like look at this, stopped. It's like I literally wish these people like this is the kind of reason why I think the surveillance state it's going to lead to a lot of good. That's what I one of the things I was thinking about today. It's like that guy who just did that. I wish it was all recorded and then it was just intrusively played back in his head over and over again, unconsensually, intrusively, on repeat, played back in that guy's head over and over again. So he really got the message of how like stupid he was, and then yeah, I mean, hopefully he would change. But you know what? I'm obviously being a little brash because I think the problem with that is that some people just wouldn't get it. And with how like fragile humans can be, especially somebody who's acting like that, um because believe it or not, even though he's acting like a tough guy in his gray Toyota Camry, um relatively old gray Toyota Camry might add, those are oftentimes like some of the most sensitive people. And so if you had a society like that, it may actually just lead some people to just like kind of lose their mind. Like I cuz I think about it through the lens of myself, right? Where if I did something wrong and it was played back to me and explained to me, like I would really feel remorse about it. I'd feel upset. I'd feel guilty. And it's entirely possible that a person like that wouldn't even feel that way. Like they might, I mean, they might get so angry they might just do something dangerous, you know? Because that's kind of how it, like, because you have to think about it, right? I mean, there's a difference between being impatient and somebody who starts like honking at me, honks on me while they pass me by. I mean, there's a lot of people who are frustrated, you know, with my driving because it's gradual, because that's really how you're supposed to drive. You want to throttle basically as gradually as possible, and you want to use your brake basically as gradually as possible. If everybody drove like that, we would accomplish quite a bit as a species. I mean, it would just overall be a far better situation. But you know, impatience really hinders human potential. But back to what I was saying, because it's actually a very good point, and I think it's why a lot of times my takes on these things, and it actually, it really, what it revolves back around to is how I don't even think it's really the system that's the limiting factor, but it is just the human condition. You know, if you have like, it really, I mean, we talk about policy. I'm a fan of good policy. I'm a fan of good rules. I think it's essential. And it's one of those like, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg situations. It's like, well, do good rules make good people, or do good people make good rules? But I just think it's so, because my gut response is like, you know, if that guy was really intrusively shown and like almost forced to have an empathy, then it would eventually happen. Or like what I was thinking today is like, you know, wish a lot of these rich people actually were forced to feel and see what people in poverty have to go through. Because we know for certain that the world would be a different place if there was a surveillance state, and, you know, basically all day long, instead of people being able to watch like whatever they want on TikTok or TV, they would be like I've basically talked about this before, I think, um, from time to time, where it's basically the way it is right now is you have TikTok is based on what you want. So it's catering to what you want to see. You get an algorithm, and the content on there is designed for no other reason other than entertainment. It's just entertainment. Now, there may be some educational content on there, of course, because some people do find learning to be interesting, but the app is not, that is not how the algorithm is designed to cater to what you want as a human. The problem with that is it's going to shut down a lot of potentially what you need to see as a human. You know, there's certain content or certain things that certain people should see, and, you know, they don't end up being able to witness due to, you know, the algorithm being in control, essentially. And you and your human desires and your human emotions being in control. So that's what happens. It's but what I've envisioned in the future is if we have like a platform like TikTok, but the algorithm, instead of being what you want to see, it's what you need to see. You know, and so little by little you learn. But see, even here it's coming to the same problem. I'm actually glad I realized it's just that I think in comparison to a lot of people, there is like a bandwidth issue where it's like I think so many people as is like they're already tired out of their mind just after like a day of work, and like with me, how it's like I'm able to work and then I do this show. I also deal with other things in my personal life. I'm at work for, you know, basically 50 hours a week, which is it's more than a lot of people. Um, it it's it affects things, right? Like it does. I think that matters, and it matters to be aware of that. It's like the same example. Like I think the problem is I can't come up with a solution that is just working or would work if people were like me. And I have to remember, like, people are not like me. They're just not. I'm very different from other people. And a lot of people really have these egos and these deep, shallow emotional needs. And I mean, yeah, I don't want to make that sound like I'm talking because I'm really not. I mean, I have my silly needs as well. But I think I don't know, more receptive to these kind of things. And so that's kind of the problem with a surveillance state. And I think why everybody's afraid of it because most people couldn't handle like being aware of everything in the way that they are. Already a lot of people aren't. I mean, look at what the internet does to people who, go down these rabbit holes and become aware of certain topics and things like that. I mean, it's usually does not make people happy with how informed we get about the nature of reality and things like that. I mean, usually the happier people are the people who just use the internet for nonsense, you know. Or well, there's probably a happy medium where it's like people who live a purposeful life and then, people who live a completely purposeless life. I think both of like if somebody is too serious, they're probably going to be miserable, and then if somebody's too purposeless, they're probably also going to be relatively miserable. So there's probably a balance, like anything, but just think it's important to point that out. That it's like, yeah, I mean, some people, if they were in a society, like if that guy who sped past me, if he had to be accountable for what he did, I mean, maybe he just wouldn't be able to handle it, and he would start like breaking down and just getting like angry, Because what I was gonna say is, there's most people who drive around me don't act like that. Obviously, like it's a minority percentage of the people who are behind me that get so like angry about my proper driving. Um, and of course, proper meaning the most ethical, the most ethical to the car, the most ethical to the environment. So it is pretty objective, but of course somebody else could argue that proper driving to themselves means driving as fast as possible, which is that's a different case, you know but yeah, so I'm quick to think about like rigidity with these systems, and I think I'm just not really understanding that like humans wouldn't react properly to them at all, you know? And it's something I've been naive about. I don't know if it's through a particular fault of my own, or again, my kind of theory is that we all from birth kind of assume that everybody's loosely similar to ourselves, and then eventually we find out that that is like distant from the case, that there's actually there's basically no limit to how much different a person could be, right? Like There's no limit to that. Especially in this day and age with whoa, I don't know what's going on. That was just like a quick stop. I'm not really sure why, because like yeah, there was no reason for that to happen. I don't know why that happened. Anyways, um yeah, I think so. I think a lot of my takes this far, and I understood this. I think it's been I think it's been about a year or so. Not quite maybe that I've really come to grips with that. That it's like that was really the big problem with my interactions with other people is I actually assumed I was below average or there was something like wrong with me and that's what the problem was, but it turns out like that the problem is that other people are actually like more prone to being distracted or different things like that. You know what I mean? Because that was like the main thing is I thought people were being rude because I couldn't wrap my head around how like if someone says, "Oh, we'll call at this time," and then it's like they got the time like pretty far off. I just couldn't imagine how that could be anything other than rude because my entire life like I was always there for people. I was always aware of the time. I always made that a priority. And so I always felt that way where it's like I was always shocked. I was always shocked. But then I realize now like it's neither my thought fault nor theirs. Like that's it's just not. Like we all go through our own experiences in life and then again like I said we think everybody else is loosely like ourselves and we use ourselves as a vantage point. Most people this isn't a huge problem because they fall within the median, but for somebody like me it's like I don't. So when I'm assuming that people are just going to at least be like loosely similar to me, and then I actually think I'm worse than other people, given the types of social, like, and that's it kind of ties into our conversation about ego yesterday. And it's like, I actually think trying to force myself to be humble, it caused more confusion and frustration because it made me like where I was at, I thought I was no good. That's what I thought. And so I couldn't imagine like other people being like even lower than that. I was like, what? Cuz like I already thought I mean, I was made to think that like I wasn't a good friend or I wasn't this or that. Seriously, like that's what I was made to believe or that I wasn't good at talking or all these like things. That's what I was really made to believe from my interactions with other people. And so, Sorry, I just went way off topic in my head about something else. Um, but yeah, I think like it's so important to understand that like I basically by because I always was so sensitive to that when people would talk about egos, and I always thought it was important to be humble and things like that, and I just after what I've been put through, I just end up feeling like now that you know a lot of people have egos, and it's just like even a lot of people who claim other people do. I mean, maybe it's in different manifestations. Like we all have certain things we're more arrogant about. And then maybe it's accurate for some people, but then not accurate for others. Not entirely sure. But, huh. Sorry, wow. I don't know. I think I'm just tired after a week of work. But, this week went by like fairly quick because, yeah, I can't believe how quick it went by. It's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm just getting tired, honestly. But this weekend should be pretty good. So, yeah, sorry. Wow, I'm just getting like into thoughts again. But yeah, I think it's just so important to think about, and there's so much confusion with that. I think the only like sad thing is knowing that, you know, I I know that many people never even come to that conclusion. Like their whole lives. Some people maybe come to it sooner than me. Others probably never have to come to it, you know. I think many I actually think most people probably don't end up coming to it just because I've always wanted to understand people. And so when you really want to understand a person, you eventually will. Or not a person, people as a whole. But I think most people who fall at a median, their emotions and the way they react to things, they probably just get subtle agreement and, they, yeah, they get subtle agreement and they, never really have to deal with too much. Like it's like they just, they get validated enough. They get validated enough to where it doesn't really matter, and they probably just get aimlessly mad at certain people, aimlessly angry, and it's like, you know, probably just kind of a norm. Because you don't really have to grow. Like you don't. Nobody really forces anybody to in life. You can easily get away with being immature. Most things revolve around financial. I mean, you could be financially mature and basically everything else about you immature, and you're probably going to be able to turn out okay. And mentioned before how that's like a problem with things and something that surveillance could actually help a lot. And I know GPT always tells me, well, you can't calculate morals. You can't but it's like that just does not make any sense to me. Of course you could calculate morals or ethics. Like there's certain things that are clear. There's certain things that are clear. And there there's no dispute about right or wrong in certain cases. Now I understand things would get complicated, and so you can't use it as something absolute, but you know, I'm just saying. I'm just like mentioning. I'm just putting it out there. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting lost, and I just keep. It's okay. I think the episode was good enough. We could call it. Honestly, I think we could call it. I'm not going to yet, but I'm saying like I really, and I don't know. Like I was thinking earlier, something. I guess this can be like the finishing topic because it'll probably. I don't even know if I'll get to it fully. I've always wanted to have like a true bond with a person. I've always felt like a third wheel, like my whole life. And I kind of realize now that I should really welcome that space. Like, oftentimes, there's pros and cons to being like tight with a person. I don't know. But I still believe it's probably healthier to be like good friends, but it's possible I'll find somebody later in life too. I've always just been obsessive about early, and that's why I got so beaten down because things weren't really working out for me early. But now things are going relatively okay. So, it's like, sorry. Yeah, no, I just keep having these, like, I literally think I was doing the same thing on last Friday. Like, I'm like, my brain just takes over, and it's good to think too. And so I think that's what I like. I mean, I've always been that way though. Like, I obviously like listening to music in the car, but I don't really do it that often. Like, well, obviously, I basically never do it. I'm very like happy with just having the mic on, talking when I want to talk, thinking when I want to think. And it's kind of a shame because I mean, in the beginning, it was more about really maximizing for the show, but I don't really, that's not, I don't think that's really the intention anymore. The intention now is like, it's, like I said, just having the mic on, saying things when I'm saying them, and thinking things when I'm thinking them. And, that's about it. There's not, there's not too much else happening. So, you know. And I like that. I mean, I think that's so healthy in a world where it's like you go in the car and you just put the music on. You have music on. Boom. You're walking around. You have headphones in. Boom. Like there's never really like proper rest. It's always this constant cycle of entertainment and being catered to. And I think it's okay to feel hungry. It's okay to feel hungry. I don't think I could put it a better way, you know. It's nice. Obviously when you eat a meal after being hungry, that's always when things taste the best, or when you drink water after being thirsty. When you're always just eating, it's like, what good is that? You know? So, yeah, it is what it is. Um, Anyways, it's been Schla, and now it's time to buy Schla. So, see you, Schla.